Front page of our local dailies. But first, let me start with the front page of the Daily Nation. Scandal of stolen free school funds. That is what I have here. Scandal of stolen free school funds. The Office of the Auditor General has exposed shocking fraud that saw 33 non-existent schools received billions of shillings in the past 4 years, even as thousands of public primary and secondary institutions across the country teeter on the brink of closure due to underfunding that has so far piled up to staggering 117 billion shillings. That is what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. And of course, still here on the front page, we have CS for Interior, Murkomen, yesterday giving statistics on what happened. And he said that 1,500 people were arrested and facing charges of terrorism, murder, robbery with violence, sexual assault, arson, malicious damage of property, etc., etc. And now he said that there are a number of politicians who are also being charged or under probe with terrorism-related offenses, and others have been summoned to the SCU. That is CS Murkomen yesterday with some senior politicians. And he said that senior politicians in the ruling United Democratic Alliance, UDA, are among 121 individuals being investigated for allegedly bankrolling violence during the June 25th and July 7th protest. He said that many are under probe and information will be given further. Pathologists request more time to conduct post-mortem on body of woman who died in police custody. They said that although 3 pathologists observed bleeding in the brain, they concluded that it did not appear traumatic enough to have caused her death. So they needed 14 more days or 2 weeks if you want to continue the investigations. Now, we have got the youngest officer in town. Fahima Abdallah, the new IBC vice chairperson, is a young woman of many fasts. So that story is fleshed out for you on page 3. And in sports, Kibet joins Spain. Celta Vigo beat him on a 4-year deal. This is some good news for the youngster who is rising. 133 children. 33,000 children miss key vaccines as coverage falls, new report says. That is the World Health Organization attributes declining immunization rates to limited access to inoculation services, disrupted supply chains, and conflict. That's the story there. Now, the story of Fahima Abdallah, who is the vice chairperson of IBC. You can take a look at that story. At just 21, she was named as Shella Ward Administrator in Lamu, making her the youngest person to hold the position. And now at 33, she now stands as a beacon of change. She is the vice chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Very quickly, audit reveals loss of billions on shillings and fraud involving ghost schools. MPs Oundo and Mandazi demand action against officers who authorized the disbursement. The Auditor General Nancy Gadongo, in a special audit on capitation and infrastructure grants on schools submitted the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly, paints a picture of wanton theft and glaring dysfunction in the funding of free primary and secondary education. Very quickly, Help Chief Munari says that 163,000 missed loans due to cash constraints. And the agency received 713,173 applications, but could only fund 338 university students. He said that they don't have funds to support the scheme as it is. And very lastly, Medic's autopsy on slain youth unclear. They need 14 more days to complete the investigation. Pathologists are requesting 2 weeks to undertake further analysis. And Murkomen said that politicians being probed over deadly protest, which is under process right now. 4 military personnel killed, 6 hurt in Lamu attack. Our condolences to the affected families. Lamu East Deputy County Commissioner George Kubai said that tens of soldiers were aboard a KDF vehicle traveling from Kiunga town to Sankuri when it ran over improvised explosive device at Badar around 1:40 p.m. And Badar is about 2 kilometers from Kiunga, which is located along the Kenya-Somali border. The area is also deep inside the dense Boni forest, where a multi-agency security operation, Amani Boni, is currently underway. Finally, in sports, what do you have here? Home support key to Stars' progress. Local coaches say Kimanzi, Oyugi, and Ahulia Recon's game versus DRC Congo will set tone for Kenya's performance. The Harambee Stars last Wednesday, Harambee Stars coach Benny McCarthy exuded confidence that they will be up to the task in progressing beyond the group stage of the delayed 2024 Africa Nations Championship. The exercise and practice and training is happening at the Kasarani. Vivian, what do you have?
All right, I have with me a copy, or the copy rather, of The Star. And this is how it looks. The front page says, police fired from ambulance during Saba Saba. That's a probe. And we also have the picture of the family of the 12-year-old little girl who was shot while at home watching television. And we also have MPs sustain bid to let public officers do business with state. Billions are sent to go schools and learners. There's a report on that. Murkomen to direct police on use of force. Now, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has revealed plans to formally direct the police on the use of force on suspects. So there's that story there. That is on page 2 of The Star. Cops fired from unmarked cars during Saba Saba probe. Now, police used unmarked vehicles and ambulances to trail and target protesters for shooting during the Saba Saba demonstrations, according to a preliminary report by a consortium of human rights organizations released on Tuesday. So there's that report that has been released, and there's a probe on exactly that. That is also still on page 2 of The Star. There's also a story on Nyoro decries soaring fuel prices, secretive borrowing. Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro has criticized the recent surge in fuel prices, dismissing the government's explanation as misleading and incomplete. Speaking out on the issue, he challenged the Ministry of Energy's claim that the hike is due to rising global oil prices, pointing out that the highest global oil prices were actually recorded last year and not this year. Audit bombshell, capitation funds to schools stolen. A special audit has lifted the lead on the rot in government schools capitation program, unearthing a well-orchestrated high-level scheme to swindle taxpayers. The interim special report exposes a deeply compromised system riddled with ghost schools, inflated enrollments, and institutions sharing bank accounts. So that story has actually been fleshed out on page 4 and 5 of The Star. So they've gone into details on this particular probe. You definitely want to get a copy of The Star and get to read more on that. Wetangula hails Ruto's mass hiring of teachers. We also have a story on court halls removal of new Isiolo speaker as wrangles deepen. One other story right here on The Star. Former Senator Orwoba slapped with 10 million fine days after losing her seat. Just days after losing her seat as nominated Senator, Gloria Orwoba has suffered another devastating blow in her young political career. That is, the High Court has ordered her to pay 10.5 million in damages for defaming Senate Clerk Jeremiah Nyegenye, marking a significant legal and political blow. Maybe finalizing on what is on The Star before I hand you over to Mike with The Standard. We have scaling heights, that is when it comes to sports. Rising Stars skipper Wanjala Kibet signed for La Liga teams. And then CS Murkomen urges Kenyans to showcase best behavior during CHAN. Mike, what do we have on the Standard?
Indeed. The Standard is reporting, this is what is flashed on the front page of the Standard. Reign of anarchy. From burned hospitals to brazen looting, Kenya is spiraling into a state of orchestrated anarchy fueled not by criminals in the shadows, but by power-hungry elites in plain sight. As goons terrorize citizens and vigilantes rise in retaliation, the government issues threats with one hand and shields allies with the other. With 2027 polls looming, what the country is witnessing is not just unrest, it's a chilling rehearsal. Here they have captured the numbers given by CS Interior Murkomen. 42 is the number of those killed on June 25th and July 7th. This is a government account with activists saying at least 57 people died. 600 is the number of people who were injured in the protest, with Interior CS Murkomen claiming the bulk, that is 496 police officers. 1,500 is the number of those in police custody arrested in retaliation to the demos, while majority were released. 121 face charges ranging from terrorism to arson. That is a story that is fleshed out on page 6, 7, and 8 of the Standard newspaper. On page 4 of the Standard newspaper, how ghost students and schools gobbled up 3 billion in capitation. Special report tabled in Parliament indicates that 723 ghost schools got funds. Auditor General found 33 sample schools in about 83 were non-existent. Read that story on page 4 of the Standard. Help deficit locks out 160,000 from funding. Help cash crunch leaves 160,000 students stranded, risking dropouts, campus unrest. Loans board once lack of 49 billion could collapse higher education and human capital. That story is told on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. On page 6, Kenya's rapid slide into anarchy raises fears of violence in 2027 elections. That story is told on page 6 and 7. Fear is rife. The descent into lawlessness 2 years into to an election is possibility of chaos. State-sponsored violence has made it difficult to crack down on criminals. That story is told on page 6 and 7 of the Standard. IPRA under fire over sharp rise in fuel prices. Super petrol is now retailing at 186 and 31 cents per litre in Nairobi, up from 177 and 32 cents. There are calls to review petroleum taxes that account for nearly half of retail prices. Let's look at the sports. Finally, it's Aldrine Kibet's moment. Kenya's under-20 star set to be unveiled as Celta Vigo player today after he sealed the deal yesterday. Without a doubt, Kenya's under-20 star Aldrine Kibet is living his dream of being a professional footballer. You can read that story on the last page of the Standard. That is what is captured on our local dailies. You can get your favorite paper to read on what is being reported. We take a very short break so that we can have our first conversation with Victor Olo. Stay with us.